Okay, so for today's lesson, I want us to continue with the nervous system. I want us now to go through the CNS, that is, hoping you can still remember what we mean by the CNS, the central nervous system. In this case, we are talking about the brain and the spinal cord. Those are the main part of the central nervous system. So remember, this topic is on nervous system, and on nervous system, we have the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system, this is where we have the nerves. And then the central nervous system, we have the brain and the spinal cord. Though even in the central nervous system, there is also nerves. Okay. So in this case, I want us to discuss about the brain and the spinal cord. That is the different parts of the brain and the spinal cord and how they function. Because you find that different parts are meant for different functions. So in this case, remember the CNS is supposed to act after the impulse has been transferred from the sensory organs to the CNS through the work of the nerves. So there must be these impulses, and then the impulses are sent to the effector organs. Remember, a good example of an effector organ is glands and the muscles. These are the common effectors organ. Hoping you can differentiate between the effector organs and the sensory organs. The sensory organs are the ones which sense, and they send impulse to the CNS. Then from the CNS, we have the impulse being sent to the effector organ, so that now they can be able to act. Okay, so let's discuss about the brain. So the brain, okay, so from the head itself, okay, let me show you the diagram. We have the cranium. The cranium is basically the skull. This is the skull. I believe you have ever heard of the skull. Maybe you have never heard of the word cranium, but the skull you are aware of it, as in it is the bone that covers the different parts of the brain. This is a very simple diagram of a brain, which you can easily understand. So in this case, we have the forebrain and the midbrain. Then we have the cranium. Then from the cranium, there is usually the meninges. The meninges are meant to protect the inner part of the brain, or the part that are now supposed to be functioning. So the meninges are basically the membranes. They are membrane covering the content of the brain. That is the brain part that are supposed to function. So it covers and protect. Okay, it is covered and protected by the membrane known as meninges. That is the brain. Then when the meninges are infected by bacteria or fungi, a person suffers from meningitis. So I believe you have ever heard of meningitis. This is a disease that can infect any other person. And you find that it is manifested by headache because this is a part that is affecting your head. So that is when the meninges they're infected. So they're infected. After infection, what we usually have is inflammation. That is the swelling. So once the meninges swell, it means that, as in you have to take antibiotic for them to recover. Yeah, so that is basically the outer part of the brain. So we have the inner part that now function differently to coordinate our body. Remember, we have the control center. We have a control center in the brain, and this is the biggest part of the brain. Let me show you from the diagram. The cerebellum, that is the cerebrum. That is cerebrum. This is the control center, and actually it is the highest in content, as in it is the largest. It is the largest part of the brain, as you can see from the diagram. Yes. So, and it consists of two central hemisphere, as in it is subdivided into two. But definitely there is no there is no bone that is separating the two hemisphere. Basically, it's about the front part and the hind part. So it is highly folded in order to increase the surface area. And this is the control center. It controls the learning, intelligence, thought, imagination, and response. Then we have the other section, the medulla oblongata. I believe you can be able to see it from the diagram. So, okay. I'm hoping that you have drawn this diagram because you have to know each and every part and where it is and where it is located. So we have the cerebrum, then we have the medulla oblongata, you see where it is. Then from the medulla, actually below the medulla we have the medulla, then we have the pons, then we have the pituitary gland. We will discuss the functions of all these parts. Then we have the hypothalamus, then we have the cerebellum. You see where it is, it looks like a flower. So ensure that you can be able to differentiate between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. So those are two different parts and they have different functions. So medulla oblongata, this has a center. Okay, in this case, this is an area whereby breathing is controlled and the heartbeat. So we have the breathing, heartbeat, swallowing, salivation, blood pressure, temperature, hearing, taste, and touch. So that is the area specific, as in this once something is sensed from, so if it is about the swallowing, it's supposed to coordinate the peristalsis in the body. If it's about the blood pressure, it's supposed to control and coordinate how the blood is being pumped in the blood vessels. And then temperature regulation, as in your body is able to act at different temperature, when it is cold, when it is hot, so that the body can maintain a state of homeostasis. So what happens is, once there is the impulse, once there is the sensory organ sense the changes in all these parts, this information or the impulse is sent to the CNS, and in this case it is being sent to the brain, and the part of the brain is the medulla oblongata. Then we have the cerebellum. So in this case, this is folded also. It is the folded dorsal expansion of the hindbrain. The term dorsal, it is showing the position. It is somewhere at the back, as you can see from the diagram. So it is on the hind part of the head, or the hind part of the brain, not on the fore part. You see, we have the forebrain, the midbrain, and then this is the hind toward the back of your head. So dorsal shows the location. It's about the location of that part. Then it controls the posture, movement, and balance. So this is the part whereby as in a person can be able to sit upright. As in it controls the posture of a person. How are you able to sit? So a person who you can see that they are not able to sit, the part that is usually affected is the cerebellum. So posture, movement, and balance of the body, so that you can be able to stand and walk comfortably. Then we have the hypothalamus. This controls the functions such as the body temperature and osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is basically whereby we have the state of balance in the body in terms of actually it's mostly about the salt, not actually the salt or the sodium and the water balance in the body. So once that is able to be regulated, that is the state of the osmoregulation in the body. Then we have an endocrine part, that is the pituitary gland. Why am I calling it endocrine? It's an endocrine organ because it is able to secrete. As in its secretion, it is released directly to the bloodstream, and then it goes to different organs. As in it acts on different organs. For example, an endocrine pituitary gland secretes hormones. It secretes hormones, and these hormones, for example, one of the hormones that regulate the sexual development. Let me give you an example of in female. In female, we have the follicle-stimulating hormone. Follicle-stimulating hormone is secreted from the pituitary gland, if you can remember. And then from there, we have, it is secreted from that gland. It is released to the bloodstream. Remember, this is from the head, but it's supposed to act on the uterus. So what happens is that it is carried by the blood to the uterus. and now it is able to act there for different changes that regulate the menstrual cycle in female. Apart from that, we also have other hormone. You can find out other hormones that are secreted from the pituitary gland, but there are several. It is not one. So in this case, apart from the key function is about secretion of the hormones. Actually, you can even, on osmoregulation, I've just remembered a hormone that regulates osmoregulation. Remember from the, have we covered? No, we covered kidney. Yes, we covered kidney last semester. And there is this hormone we talked about, referred to as ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone is secreted from pituitary gland as well. So antidiuretic hormone is the one which is able to control the absorption of water in the kidney. So if you try to connect the two. So we have ADH being secreted from the pituitary gland. It is carried by the blood to the kidney, and this is where now it is supposed to act on the nephron. So remember how I was trying to explain about how nerves operate. So what happened is, once we have the water being as in water in the nephron. Remember about we have the ultrafiltration and selective reabsorption, the two main processes that occur in the nephron. So what happened is that once ultrafiltration occur, and now we have the content, the glomerulus filter getting to the proximal convoluted tubule. So once it is sensed, that information is carried by the sensory nerve to the CNS, and now the part that is acting is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland it sends that, and now it is able to send impulse, as in it is able to send impulse that it's supposed to secrete the ADH. Now this is the effector organ. It is an effector organ as well, since it is secreting hormone toward a certain response. Yeah, and so many other ways. So we have also hormones that control metabolism, and so on. So the main function of the pituitary gland is hormonal secretion, and it has very many hormones. Yeah, so here I had two words. We have the optic lobe. Optic lobe is able to control the sight of the sense of sight, and we have the olfactory lobe. It controls the sense of smell. So these are basically part of brain. Then here we had another diagram showing the different lobes in the brain, as in they're just like subsections in the brain. So we have the frontal lobe, we have the parietal lobe, we have the temporal lobe, then we have occipital lobe. So these are actually the cranium. The cranium is the one which is subdivided into these portions. It is subdivided into this portion. We talk of cranium, or the skull, having immovable joint. We will discuss this under locomotion. So we talk of cranium having immovable joints, and now these are the joints now which are separating the different lobes. So hoping you can understand that. So you see the cerebellum is on the back part, or the hind part of the brain. Is there any question on that diagram? Hello? Any question? Is there any question on the different parts of the brain? Someone is trying to speak, but I cannot hear you clearly. Okay, remember, when you want to speak, you're supposed to unmute your speaker. I cannot get you. Is it Betty who is trying to speak? Okay. So if you have a question, ensure that you ask. Then the other part of the CNS, we have the spinal cord. The spinal cord, now this is the continuation. It branches from, you see, the brain stem. So now from the neck, now we have the spinal cord, which is branching from that part. So it is actually a continuation of the brain. So we also have the central nervous system functions in the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is located within the vertebral column and consists of the following. We have the gray matter forming the central part of the spinal cord, and it consists of the nerve cell bodies and intermediate nerve fiber. So remember, we talked about the intermediate nerves. These are the relay neuron, the three different types of nerves. These are the relay neuron, and the relay neuron, they are also referred to as intermediate nerve cells, and these are located in the CNS. So remember, spinal cord is part of the CNS. So the gray matter, it has the relay neurons and the cell body. So this is the cell body of the motor neuron. Remember, motor neuron is the only nerve whereby we have the cell body inside the CNS together with the relay neuron. Then we have the white matter of the spinal cord. It carries, so this is where we have the sensory nerve fiber, yes, and also the motor nerve fibers. That is the other end. So we have the cell body on the CNS, that is on the gray matter. That is the cell body of the motor neuron. But the other continuation is on the white matter. Those are the two parts of the spinal cord. So we will be able to see a structure of spinal cord under these reflexes, because these reflexes, we have the coordination being controlled in the spinal cord. So when we'll be discussing a reflex arc, you'll be able to see a diagram of a spinal cord, and you'll see the gray matter and the white matter. Okay, so we have the two types of reflexes. We have simple and conditioned reflex action. So the simple reflex action, as we have explained on the chart, so this is automatic, something that you cannot control on your own. It just occur. For example, when the body senses anything, like changes in temperature, if you sense something that is hot, you have to move your hand. So that moving your hand, that is a simple reflex action. That is something that is occurring automatic. We also have other things. For example, sneezing. You cannot control sneezing. That's a simple reflex action. How does it happen? So these occur through the transmission of that impulse is known as reflex arc. So let's see how it happens. This reflex arc that is being shown here. I believe it's for someone who is trying to move. For example, you're moving your hand from something that is hot or something that has pricked you. You see, you cannot continue being pricked by something and you are not moving your hand. So just that movement of the hand, your skin is able to sense. Then this impulse, they are sent to the CNS. In this case, they are being sent to the spinal cord. The part now which is controlling this is the spinal cord. So this is a diagram of a spinal cord, and you can be able to see this central part here. The central part, we have the gray matter. You see, it is dotted to show that it is gray. Then white matter is the outer portion. Inside the gray matter, we have the synapse. Remember what is a synapse? We said a synapse. Let me admit Damaris. I think she has issues with the internet. Okay, let's continue. So we have a synapse. A synapse is a connection between two nerve cells. For example, remember we have talked about inside the gray matter we have the cell body. So this is the cell body of motor neuron. Then we also have the cell body of the cell body of the relay neuron. The relay neuron, we said they are inside the CNS only. They connect to nerve cells. They connect to nerve cells, and in between the connection, this is where we have a synapse. I believe by now you have understood that. So once your body, for example, your hand sends something that is hot, it is able to move through the transmission of impulse. For example, your skin sends, the impulse is sent to the CNS. So let's see, the sensory neuron sense. So these are the receptors. The receptors, they are able to sense the changes in the environment. So your body sends something that is hot, then the sensory neuron transmit the impulse to the CNS. In this case, this is the spinal cord, the gray matter of the spinal cord. Then inside the gray matter, we have a synapse that is connecting the sensory neuron to the relay neuron. Then from the relay neuron to the motor neuron. Now it is connecting to the cell body of the motor neuron. Then the impulse is carried back. You see, it is coming to act. So in this case, we have two routes. We have the dorsal route, whereby the sensory impulse is being sent to the CNS. Then we have the ventral route, whereby now the impulse is sent from the gray matter or the CNS to the effector organ. You see, now it is coming to act on the muscles, the effector organ. It is acting on the muscle, so that now your hand is able to bend. So remember the muscles. We will discuss muscles under the locomotion part, the locomotion and the movement. We'll discuss about the bones and the muscles. So you realize that on the hand, we usually have the tricep and bicep muscles. So in this case, we have some of the muscles contracting and other relaxing. So this is due to the effect of those impulses that are being transmitted. So ensure that you can be able to understand that reflex arc. So that is what is being explained on these notes. So I don't have to repeat that. So in this case, we have examples: pulling the hand away from a hot object, or it can be something that is pricking a person. Then knee jerking, being able to move your knee, as in we have the different changes in the different changes in the muscles. And then we have sneezing, a person being able to sneeze. Then lastly, we have the condition reflex. We're supposed to be winding up. The condition reflex. So this is after condition. It is something that is being repeated, something that is being done repeatedly, and mostly this occurs in animals. So once animals sense something, like they are used to, for example, they know the time that a person is feeding them, so they are able to remember, or they are able to sense, or they start showing them, like that time they're supposed to be doing something. For example, time for feeding, they're able to remember time for feeding, and in this case they start acting. For example, they start salivating when that time arrives or reaches. Yeah, so that is something that is conditioned. It's not something that is automatic. It is something, a response that is stimulated after experience. So that is the simplest way I can be able to explain that. Yeah, so that's it for today. Shail and Sheena, do we have any question?
No.
Okay, then you can have a good day. You can proceed to the next class.